Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Cha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine. Namo Mahavadhanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namani Gora Trishe Namaha. Shri Krishna, He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta. Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Tapta Kanchana Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Tat Kripa Tamaham Bande Shri Gurun Dinatarane. All right, so we're moving on to second canto. So we did all the reading already. Now, are you there, everybody? Because I see Tamal and Infinite.
Tamal Krishna Prabhu is here.
Right.
And let's have him Prabhu.
Something's going on with Salika again. Salika.
My voice is not. My voice is not clear again, Maharaj.
Now it is, but it was making noise. Now it's everybody can hear me all right?
Yeah, we can hear you, Maharaj.
You can see me on the camera.
Not clear.
The rest of them Prabhu and Tamala Krishna Prabhu are here. Others have not joined.
Yeah.
Okay, so the self-study for this chapter 1. What was Maharaj Priket's question? And that goes back to the first canto, the last couple of verses. And we discussed it a lot yesterday. Who remembers?
What was Maharaj's question? Maharaj's question is, what is the best activities for everyone at all times, and what is the duty of someone who is about to die? Two questions he asked.
And why is that considered loka hitam? Everybody know what loka hitam means even.
It is for the benefit of every human being in all planets.
Yeah, it's good for everybody. Nana Shastra Vicharita, right? The six Swamis. They studied it, very scrutinizing, studied all the scriptures for the benefit of everyone.
Yes.
5 symptoms of a Grihamedi.
The 5 symptoms of a Grihamedi.
Maharaj, body, wife, body, children, the wife, the family. Yeah.
Yeah. They do not inquire into the problems of life. They're too attached to the body, mind, children, and wife.
Yeah.
And they don't see their inevitable destruction. And they have some illusion that they're going to go on living forever.
They do not inquire into the subject matter of life.
Okay, this is a good one. Remembering the personality of God, it is recommended. What are the benefits and what is achieved? That's verse 5 and 6.
The question is, what is...
5 says, one who desires to be free from all miseries. And 6 is the highest perfection of human life.
Achieves either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practice of mystic powers, or by perfect discharge of occupational duty, is to remember the personality of God at the end of life.
Yeah, no matter how you do it, that's the goal. And why does Sukadev give his own life's example?
Because himself he has attained the ultimate goal, and by practice of devotional service, so he's giving his own life as a successful transcendentalist.
Yeah, because hearing the glories of the Lord changed him. You know, he was self-realized, he was satisfied anywhere. He wasn't suffering. But when he heard the glories of the Lord, he got much better. He got really lifted up. Okay, King Katranga, that one, who knows that one? Everybody should know that one. That's a simple one. Somebody can say about King Katranga?
Yeah, Katranga was opportuned after rendering service to the demigod. He was told he has 24 minutes left to leave, and he asked, how long does he have to leave? He was told he has 24 minutes. So he quickly came back to the earthly planet, and it was said that it used 12, half of that time, 12 minutes, or something like that. And then it remained 12 minutes he uses in engaging in meditation on the Supreme Personality of God, the Spirit of the Lord.
That's right. And what is the lesson to be learned?
Lesson to be
What
learned.
is the significance?
The significant lesson is that everyone is about to die, because we do not know when what long time we have. So we have to use the moment to constantly always remember the lotus feet of the Lord. He had said 24 minutes. We don't know whether we have 1 minute. So the significant lesson is that every moment that we have to engage it in Krishna consciousness.
Right. So he's teaching us. And again, like we discussed a lot yesterday, that everybody's really at the, we don't know how long we live, so we should be thinking it might be very short, and then we should be trying to surrender to Krishna. Whatever else we're doing, surrender to Krishna at the same time. All right, so there's some analogies which are worthwhile for preaching. So let's go one by one and read them. Different devotees there. You got it?
Okay, I'll read the first one. It says,
Yeah.
the topics of Lord Krishna are so auspicious that they purify the speakers, the hearer, and the inquirer. They are compared to the Ganges water, which flow from the toe of Lord Krishna. Wherever the Ganges water go, they purify the land and the person who bathes in them. Kamala Krishna Prabhu, can you read the second one?
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah, second one. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, verse 1-4. The great ocean of material nature is tossing with the waves of time, and the so-called living conditions are sometimes like foaming bodies, which appear before us as bodily self, wife, children, society, countrymen, etc. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Madhavan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. The great ocean of material nature. No, sorry. 218. One has to be admitted to the medical college and study the books under the guidance of learned professors. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam, the postgraduate study of the science of Godhead, can only be learned by studying it at the feet of a realized soul like Srila Vyasadeva.
And the last one is 2115. After that, one forgets everything about the present bodily relations. We have a little experience of this at night. When we go to sleep, while sleeping, we forget everything about this body and bodily relations. This is a temporary situation for only a few hours.
Okay, so, that's trying to give us a little understanding, these analogies, because we can perceive the material world and we can perceive all these things. So it just gives us a little hint of what the spiritual world is like by making analogies to different things in the material world. Then there's an overview of the whole chapter. And it's, like I said yesterday, it's quite interesting how there's different ways we can, contemplate the Bhagavatam. So verses 1 to 6, we had like 2 or 3 sentences, but Prabhupada's very long purports, we noted when we were reading, very long purports, to explain these things, but at the same time, we can get some idea by the example I think they're given. If you're cooking the rice, if you take out one grain and if it's cooked, then you know that they're all cooked, right? But you can't just eat one grain and be satisfied. You need to eat more. But the one grain can tell you that all the rest of them are cooked. So, but we can summarize, and sometimes that's quick. Sometimes we just telling someone when they ask what are these books about, we give this basic idea. We don't have to tell them you have to read the whole Bhagavatam. We can give them a little hint about it so they'll want to read it more. All right, so let's have somebody read. Summary of verse 1 to 6. Tamal Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Tamal Krishna Prabhu Maharaj ask you to read.
Yes. Sukadeva Goswami described Maharaj Parasi's questions as glorious and beneficial to all. People who are too attached to materialistic life and family are grammedies. He described their symptoms as then point out one actual duty. Hear about, glorify, and also remember the personality of Godhead. This will lead a perfection of life. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Madhavan Prabhu can read the next one.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Sukadeva Goswami cites his own life as an example to demonstrate how even the topmost transcendentalists take pleasure in describing the glories of the Lord. Sukadeva Goswami will now recite that very Srimad Bhagavatam he heard from his father to Maharaj Parishit. He recommends the process of constant chanting of the holy name of the Lord for all. whether one is free from desirous or self-satisfied, and cites the story of Maharaj Katranga to demonstrate that even a moment of full consciousness can bring perfection of life. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
You know, that's the point then, that Maharaj Katranga, he had very short time to live, but he just utilized it and went back to Godhead. So, but that we want to practice so that at the time of death we can be thinking of Krishna. If we, you know, some people, it's possible, like a Jamil or somebody, that they were all sinful and at the time of death somehow they were rescued. But we should not count on that. We should practice. Because just like what we're thinking about when we go to sleep, that's what we'll think about when we wake up. So what we practice during our life is what we're going to remember at the time of death. Don't depend on some kind of special causeless mercy just coming all of a sudden. Although it does happen, it's possible. And we try to help people like that. We try to give it, you know, try to somehow wake people up, give them Krishna. Okay, verses 14 to 21.
Sukadev Goswami recommends detachment from material life and fear of death. One should leave home and practice self-control in a sacred place, bathing regularly, sitting alone. One should chant the pranava mantra, Omkar, and the mind will become progressively spiritualized. Thereafter, one can progress to meditation on the form of Vishnu and come to the level of devotion and service.
Okay, simple. 22 to 39. So that, you know, that's how many verses? 17 verses, 18 verses, and summarized just in a few sentences.
In answer to Maharaj Parikshit's inquiry regarding how and where to fix the mind so that it can become purified of dirty things, Sukadev Goswami described meditation on the gross universal form of the Lord, because there is nothing more
And this.
sorry. I'll take that again. In answer to Maharaj Parikshit's inquiry regarding how and where to fix the mind so that it can become purified of dirty things, Sukadev Goswami described meditation on the gross universal form of the Lord because there is nothing more than this in the material world. One who does not concentrate his mind upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead will be misled and will cause his own degradation.
All right. Now, something to go, could spend time with, but discussion topics.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes.
I have a question.
Okay.
The summary of verse 22 to 39. They say we should meditate on the gross universal form of the Lord. But sometimes also they tell us that we should meditate only on the personal form of Krishna, the two-handed form. And the time when Arjuna also saw the gross universal form, he prefers the two-handed form of Krishna. I don't know. So it's appear a bit confusing when they say we should meditate on the gross universal form of the Lord.
Well, it's not for everybody, but for the neophyte people to get started, the universal form idea. But also this form that's given in the second canto, it's saying how the mountains are the bones of the Lord and the rivers are the veins. And since we're always seeing those things, it's worthwhile to think of them like that, to help us remember that the Lord is a person.
Thank you very much.
But it's specifically for neophytes, for people that can't understand that God is a person and can't accept if you just show them the deity or the personal form of the Lord. So you show that the whole universe is a form of the Lord, and they can see the universe and they can believe it. So who can say what are the qualifications for hearing about Srimad Bhagavatam now? There's going over like 5 or 6 verses there, so it's interesting. So what is it saying? It's verses 5 to 10. So verse 7, it says, mainly the topmost transcendentalists who are above the regulated principles and restrictions take pleasure in describing the glories of the Lord. Not just everybody, that, you know, mundane people, they don't want to hear that. They want to hear the glories of themselves or the glories of some mundane person that they can imitate or something. See what number 8 says. Well, this is glorifying the Bhagavatam, famous verse that we often chant before class. It is equal to all the Vedas, and Sukadeva saying he studied it from my father. This Srimad Bhagavatam is equal to all the Vedas. So he's saying he was situated perfectly in transcendence, but he was still attracted to the pastimes of the Lord. That's how attractive they are. People are questioning that. How could, you know, he be attracted and he's already fixed? One who gives full attention and respect to hearing Bhagavatam achieves unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord, the giver of salvation. So this is what we're going to get out of it. See, we need this faith in the Lord. So we read that the position of the Srimad Bhagavatam, how Ashtanga Yoga that may lead to Bhakti, because that is the topmost rung on the yoga ladder of the 8 limbs. But it's also easy to get stuck and without going all the way to Bhakti that way. That's why Lord Chaitanya very kindly just came and gave us Bhakti right off, you know, immediately just give us the holy name. All right. Any comments on this chapter? you'd like to teach it, because the whole idea of these courses is so that we can become teachers. Okay, we can move on to this chapter 2. A lot of detailed questions there. Who can say, without looking, why are Vedic sounds described as bewildering? Okay, it's very clear in the verse 2. Somebody read it? Or should I read it? What's bewildering about the Vedic sounds? Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita, Pushpa Vachaka, right? The flowery words of the Vedas. They're very misleading, bewildering. Who knows what, because so many things are there for different yagyas to gain material gains. The Vedas are full of those kind of yagyas. Somebody can read that verse exactly, just to,
The way of presentation of the Vedic sounds is so bewildering that it directs the intelligence of the people to meaningless things, like the heavenly kingdoms. The condition shows how over in dreams of such heavenly illusory pleasures, but actually they do not release any tangible happiness in such places. Purport. The conditioned soul is always engaged in laying out plans for happiness within the material world, even up to the end of the universal limit. He is not even satisfied with available amenities on this planet Earth, where he has exploited the resources of nature to the best of his ability. He wants to go to the moon or to the planet Venus to exploit resources there, but the Lord has warned us in the Bhagavad Gita 8:16 about the worthlessness of all the innumerable planets of this universe, as well as those planets within other systems. There are innumerable universes and also innumerable planets in each of them, but none of them is immune to the chief miseries of material existence, namely the pangs of birth, pangs of death, the pangs of old age, and the pangs of disease. The Lord says that even the topmost planet known as the Brahmana Loka or Sacha Loka, and what to speak of other planets like the heavenly planets, is not a happy land for the residential purpose due to the presence of material pangs. As above mentioned, conditioned souls are strictly under the laws of fruitive activities, and as such, they sometimes go up to Brahman Loka and again come down to Pratala Loka, as if they were unintelligent children on a merry-go-round. The real happiness is the kingdom. The real happiness is in the kingdom of God, where What's that? Sorry. Please mute your mic if you're not speaking, please. The real happiness is in the kingdom of God, where no one has to undergo the pangs of material existence. Therefore, the Vedic ways of fruitive activities for the living entities are misleading. One thinks of a superior way of life in this country or that, or on this planet or another, but nowhere in the material world can, if you feel his real desire of life, namely eternal life, full intelligence and complete bliss indirectly. Srila Sukadeva Goswami affirms that Maharaj Parikshit, in the last stage of life, should not desire to transfer himself to the so-called heavenly planets, but should prepare himself for going back to Godhead. None of the material planets, nor the amenities available there for living condition is everlasting. Therefore, one must have a factual reluctance to enjoy such temporary happiness as they afford. Hare Krishna.
Okay. What are things that Sukadeva recommends to save us from endeavoring for unwanted things?
Those things.
Oh yeah, these famous verses.
It was from.
Be satisfied with what you have. You know, we don't need a big bed. You can lie down, you know, pillows, and we don't need all kinds of utensils to eat. You can eat with your fingers. This is for, you know, very, very austere, just to give an example. But now we could just say you don't need many, many different clothes. You need some clothes. You know, you need some kind of house, but we don't need a palace. And, you know, like so many people have rich, they get rich, they just have such big houses and they can't even utilize every room.
Yeah.
Or these crazy, really rich people have so many cars or something. You know. So this is all foolishness. Better to simplify. Simple living and high thinking. That's supposed to be the motto of the African mission, right? But sometimes we have low thinking and high living. They go together. So let's move on. What is the first duty of someone in the renounced order of life?
Is to teach about the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
It says 5, but the learned sages go to flatter those who are intoxicated by hard-earned wealth. But they do it to give them some devotional service.
The real duty is to give.
Okay, easy one now. Let's get somebody else to talk. A brief description of the supersoul. Somebody who's there? Kamala, brief description of the supersoul.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes,
Yeah.
Madhavan Prabhu can hear you.
Okay. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explained that he is seated in everyone's heart as a super soul. And from him comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. And then also, super soul was also described. They said the living entity is like, in the heart of living entity, it's like two birds. One is busy enjoying the fruits of the tree, and the other is just observing the other birds. So I think this is a brief description of super soul.
Very good. How about the yogic process of leaving the body whenever you like? Anybody can remember that?
He said that a devotee should just fix his mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even though the devotees know the part of mystic yogi of concentrating the body, training the body, sitting in a particular posture, checking for the time of the movement of the sun and the moon, it simply focuses on the meditation on the transcendental lotus feet of the Lord in devotion and service by chanting the holy name, rather than following these difficult paths, which are not easily attainable in this age.
Yeah. We know in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes this, leaving at different times in the dark, in the when the sun is here or there. But he says to Arjuna, you don't have to worry. For a devotee, he's thinking of Krishna, and these material conditions don't matter. So better, we could never learn this, all the tapasya it takes for these yogis to control everything and move everything, move the life hairs up through all the different chakras and everything. But we can chant Hare Krishna daily, and then Krishna will help us to remember him at the time of death, because that's the whole purpose of whatever yoga anyone's doing, is to remember Krishna at the time of death. What are the qualities of Sacha yoga?
Hare Krishna. It is said that the yogis, they move to Satyaloka at the end of the devastation of this earthly world, because in that planet, there is no pain of any kind there. There is no bereavement, no old age, no death. So therefore, there are no anxieties.
Right. And what is Sacha yoga? What's another name for it? What's another name for Sacha Loka?
The Vaikuntha planet.
Huh? Whose planet is it?
The Brahma's planet.
Brahma Loka, yeah.
Brahma
Lord
Loka.
Brahma's planet. So people live very, very long. There's no It's almost a spiritual world. Ugh. Excuse me. How does one purify the polluted aim of life? Someone can say without looking up the verse in the first place, and then you can also look up the verse.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah.
To purify the polluted aim of life, I think one should just engage in devotional service, surrender to a devotee who can teach him the process, how to engage in devotional service, and that will counteract the polluted aim.
That's right. And what is the essence or the basic principle of devotional service?
To give oral reception to the glories, the narration, the glories of the name, form, pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Right. So that's why we have, Prabhupada gave us his classes and regulated daily schedules and so many books, and also the inspiration to help others, because people just don't know what, they hardly have any idea of a goal of life. They're so busy just trying to stay alive. And if they have it a little bit together, for their eating and sleeping and mating and defending, then they're just busy trying to find some enjoyment in that, which is very frustrating, because either they can't find an enjoyment, or whatever they do find doesn't last very long. Now, who would like to give a brief summary of the chapter? Sign somebody, just do your best, don't worry, whatever brief is brief, Jyoti Swarup Prabhu. Jyoti Swarup Prabhu, you want to give a little summary of the chapter?
Hare Krishna. Sorry, Maharaj, my internet is disturbing today. So that's why I off the video.
Okay, that's all right. Video takes up a lot of juice,
Yes, Maharaj.
Well, from the anyway, summary of the chapters is, the question is there that, and somebody, who can I call on here? Yogic Swarup, right? I asked, see if you can give a summary of the chapter. Brief, it can be one couple words, or it can be, a few minutes, whatever you can remember. What is the essence of it? Otherwise, we go on to these analogies, which more or less cover the chapter and give some of the important points. One by one, starting with Tamal Krishna. Read the first analogy.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. In the Vedas, it is said that persons who are attached to the demigods, to the exclusion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are like the animal who follows the herdsman, even though they are taken to the slaughterhouse. That is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2:2-7. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Doesn't sound very good, but so many people worship demigods, and nowadays they don't even worship demigods, they just worship some rich person. Prabhupada said during the war in India, one man was worshiping Hitler. Because of the war, he was a rice merchant, and he got very rich, because he could raise the price of his rice so much. And there was some crazy guy in India recently who was worshiping Trump, Donald Trump. I don't know why, but he had a murti, built a murti of him and was actually doing pujas. But they don't want to worship Krishna, People worship their dog. I'm here in America and I see very regularly a truck, that goes around and dog grooming. They have a whole beauty shop for dogs. And they come out to your house and they put the dog in there and they give him shampoo and they cut his hair and they, fix up everything, brush his teeth. And people they have shops and they buy clothes for their dog and they build special houses and gourmet food. But if you tell them to worship Krishna, they think, no, they don't, I can't see him. He doesn't lick my face, How do I know? It takes special mercy to know. Okay, the next one is from verse 12.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please, I have a question in this regard. In the Vedic scriptures, it is recommended that one can worship different demigods for different purposes. For different Saraswati for knowledge, sun god for disease. And here, some analogy is talking about persons who are attached to demigod to the exclusion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So what if someone says, okay, I'm worshiping the Surya to take care of my disease condition, I'm worshiping Saraswati, but I'm still worshiping Krishna, because we see so many people like that. They come to the temple, they say, well, I'm worshiping Krishna, but I still also want to worship Lakshmi Devi because I want money.
Well, Krishna says they're worshiping me in the wrong way. If they're worshiping the demigod, then they're not worshiping Krishna, really. But if they're worshiping Krishna, they're automatically taking care of the demigod also. And the things they want from the demigods, they can only get them if it's their karma. And now, I don't know if you get all these advertisements in your country, people saying you can manifest anything. They don't even worship the demigod. They just say all you have to do is pay me and I'll teach you how to manifest anything you want within one day, Then they say, if you say, well, I took the course, but it's not working, and say, well, you're not concentrating. But where in the Bhagavatam, that's why previously it said, why are the Vedas bewildering? And that's why it's bewildering, because they have all these things about worshiping demigods. And this is what Narada chastised Vyas for writing all that you're misleading the people. This is what they want. They want to get material gain. So then you're giving them this way, and that distracts them from the real purpose of life. So in the Bhagavatam, it gives that list that we read. That's in the second canto also. Which benediction you can get from which demigod. And then, but at the end it says, but the real thing, whether you have all material desires or you don't have any material desires, or even if you want liberation, worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's better. That's the real point. But if we're preaching to people that are worshiping demigods, then we don't want to tell them, it's their family tradition, and we don't tell them, stop, don't worship the demigods anymore. We just tell them also worship Krishna, chant Hare Krishna. And how to worship the demigod, according to Vedas, is you worship Krishna, then you offer the prasadam to the demigods. So sometimes we can teach that to demigod worshippers. Add Krishna. The demigods like Hare Krishna Kirtan. Chant Hare Krishna Kirtan. The demigods like Krishna prasadam. Give them prasadam. We don't condemn the demigods, but most people, you can worship Shiva. It's possible to worship Shiva to get Krishna Bhakti. He can give it. But we don't recommend so much. Most people that worship Shiva, they're mad after material gain, material influence, money. And they don't want to worship Krishna because he's known as Hari. Hari takes they want to keep everything. All right.
So, Maharaj, so if someone comes with the request that, okay, I want to worship Lakshmi Devi or Lord Shiva, and we can encourage them to worship that demigod, but add Krishna to it. Would that be all right? Because most oftenly we see many people come like that, especially in this part of the world. Recently, I have an encounter with someone who was desperately looking out for Lakshmi Murti. He wants to worship Lakshmi. In fact, there are a group of people, they want to worship Goddess Lakshmi. And I was trying to make them understand that they don't even have the qualification or know how to worship Goddess Lakshmi in the proper way. So they should chant Hare Krishna. So my question is, so can we advise them to go ahead and worship the Goddess Lakshmi or Shiva and offer prasadam of chant Hare Krishna, offer prasadam of, like you rightly said? Can we encourage them in that?
Yeah, we don't want to, we can't force them to just immediately stop. They have to get purified. So we try to explain to them that the demigods are devotees of Krishna, and if you give the demigods Krishna prasadam, and you chant Hare Krishna for the demigod, they will be very happy. And in the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, there's a picture also that by performance of this yajna, the demigods will be satisfied, and you'll get the rain, and you'll get the, all the things you need. So that yajna is not demigod yajna, it's Krishna yajna. That's what will really satisfy the demigod. So we try to teach them how to worship the demigod. We don't condemn the demigod. The demigods are servants of Krishna, but we condemn the materialistic motive of worshiping the demigod. or even worshiping Krishna with materialistic motives. All
Thank you,
right.
Maharaj. Thank you.
Dharma projita kaita votra nirmat saranam satam. The Bhagavatam rejects any kind of religion which is materially motivated. The religion itself is not rejected, but what is the reason they're doing it? So if they're just mad after worshiping Lakshmi, thinking, but they're only going to get Lakshmi according to their karma anyway. But like many people get rich, they don't worship demigods. Many people do worship the demigods and nothing, they lose everything. But that takes, we can't just explain that right off because people are bewildered. But tell them how the demigods are devotees of Krishna and are Vishnu, and they like to hear the Mahamantra and they like to have Krishna Prasad.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Maharaj.
It says one should not disturb the minds of the less intelligent, but rather, engage them somehow or other in some kind of service. Right? That's Bhagavad Gita. Okay, verse number 12 is another analogy.
As a person feels his hunger satisfied after eating each morsel of foodstuff, they must similarly be able to see the degree to which he has been freed from sex desire.
Yeah, the more one is actually making spiritual advancement, the less he'll be controlled by sex desire. Now, desire may be there. These material desires will always come flashing through, but whether one acts on it or not, that's the difference. Most people get controlled by it. They get sex desire and they just go wild. They can't think of anything else, and they'll beg, borrow, or steal to get it.
Okay, amazing. We have Yadunath here. Yadunath Prabhu, can you read the next one?
27. This
227. Yadunath Prabhu. Are you with us?
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, we want to hear
in
you.
In the Vedas, it is said that persons who are attracted to the demigods.
No. Not that, Prabhu.
Is that 227?
an analogy.
Okay, sorry.
227.
Yes. It is said that one should become a Brahmana before one can understand the Vedic statements. And this stricture is as important as the stricture that no one shall become a lawyer who has not qualified himself as a graduate.
Okay, how does one become a Brahmana? Anybody know?
By taking training under the guidance of a Brahmana.
How does one become a Brahmana? It's by becoming a Vaishnava. The Vaishnava is the best of the Brahmins. Now, other Brahmins may tell you you have to take birth. If you're pious in this life and you serve the Brahmins in this life, then you might take birth as a Brahmin in your next life. But everyone is a Sudra at birth. To be a Brahmana requires training. But if one becomes a Vaishnava, then he's automatically a Brahmin. If he's practicing, following the regulated principles, chanting the holy name, then automatically he's a Brahmin. He's on the spiritual platform.
Adopting the Vedic culture. That's right.
Then he can understand the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Very interesting.
All right.
Thank you.
You don't become a Brahmana just by learning a bunch of mantras and mudras and, you know, how to set up a yajna, you know, how to wave the incense exactly right and, you know, offer everything exactly according to some formula. Doesn't make you a Brahmana. Or by memorizing all kinds of slokas or something, doesn't make you a Brahmin. Being born in a so-called Brahmin family, we have seen so many, we meet so many Indians around the world, and they're working as clerks, they're working as engineers and everything, but they're from a Brahmin family. They're Sharmas, they're Mukherjees or something, but they're not acting at all Brahminical. They're just, you ask them, why are you in Japan? Why did you come to America? To get money. You know, but that's not a Brahmana, right? The parents pushed him. You know, the Brahmin parents pushed him to study engineering so that they can go to another country and make a lot of money. And the parents are very proud. And if they want to quit that and be a devotee, the parents are not happy. So that's the devotees that Prabhupada was trying to create Brahmanas. So that we want to be Brahminical, but that means cow protection also. But it means, you know, spiritual, following the regulated principles, chanting the holy name, you know, and studying the Bhagavatam and teaching it. These are Brahminical activities. Okay, the last one is 31.
Jyoti Sharu Prabhu 2231. Jyoti Sharu Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, 2231. The impersonalist may be compared to certain species of fish who, being born in the river and rivulets, migrate to the great ocean. They cannot stay in the ocean indefinitely, for their urge of sense gratification bring them back to the river and stream to spawn.
Yeah. I don't know if you have that fish in Africa. There's one that's in Canada or something, North America. It's called a salmon. And they're born way up the river and somehow they end up like practically at the ocean. But then when they want to have children, they go back to where they were born. And it's an incredible struggle for them to swim upstream. They even go up little waterfalls, jumping so many times till they finally get, and they're swimming against the current to go lay their eggs. But the impersonalists think when you get to the ocean, you know, when the water gets to the ocean, then it becomes ocean water. The river water becomes ocean water. But the fish in the river, they still remain individuals. So they're thinking when you get spiritual, then you just become not individual anymore, not a person. You just disappear into the merge. It doesn't sound very attractive to me, but some people are suffering so much in the mature world that they're thinking that would be better, you know, to just have no thinking, because they're thinking their mind is so polluted. Their thinking is causing them so much pain that they think better no think. They have no idea of purified thinking. because they've been doing purified hearing and chanting their whole life, or many lifetimes, impurified, dirty hearing and chanting, the news and all the, stories of all the corrupt people and all the news is so full of, unpleasant things. So they've been hearing that, hearing all the sex stories and everything. So their minds are just dirty, 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 unclean. And they can't imagine purified thinking and purified chanting, but we're trying to give it to them. We're trying to keep ourselves in that realm, and we're trying to give it to others. The more we try to give it to others, the more we get it. Also, that's a special feature of, preaching. The more we try to give Krishna, the more Krishna gives himself to us. All right. Sounds good, huh? So the point is that the Mayavadis, I know the first yoga teacher I went to, he wasn't really, I don't know what he was teaching exactly, because we didn't do any asanas, but he was teaching some philosophy, but he was talking about merging into the void, merging into the Brahmana or whatever it is. But he even said it's temporary. You can only stay, he said, millions of years, and I thought that doesn't sound so good, you go someplace where you practically don't exist, but because the soul has a natural desire to have association and mix up, he has to go back to the material world and try to enjoy. Take birth again to have some sense gratification. Okay, now this overview of the chapter 2 of the second canto. Okay, somebody read the first one, the 7 verses.
Okay, I read it. Madhvan Prabhu,
Yes.
can you read the first one?
Yes, I can read it. Hare Krishna. Sukadev Goswami describes the futility of fruitive endeavor. The conditioned souls hover in dreams of such heavenly illusory pleasures, but actually they do not relish any tangible happiness. He thus recommends that the necessities of life be kept at a bare minimum so that one can become fixed in devotional service, by which one can end the conditioned state of existence.
Right. So we were discussing that a little bit when, we don't have to live lying on the bare ground and wearing tree bark and everything, but simplified at least. We don't need so many different things. We don't need so many clothes. We don't need so many big house, These really rich people, they have a house with 50 rooms or something, but they don't use them. They just possess it. Keep it simple so you don't have to complicate your life, and you don't have so much to give up, so you've invested so much to get all these things. Okay. So most people now, they don't even think of heaven, they just think of heaven on earth, Like I've seen these pictures of certain apostles or pastors, whatever they are there in Africa, and they're showing behind a gigantic mansion house and a Ferrari car and, a few beautiful girls. That is not, that is the demoniac, goal of life. That's not the spiritual goal of life at all. And like Bhakti Tirtha said, if these things work, then everybody in Africa would be rich, because they all go to church and they all give money to the church and they all pray to get rich, but they don't. Because some of the greedy people are taking everything. Right? If you cook a big feast, for all the devotees, and then 2 or 3 devotees sneak in the kitchen and eat it all, and then the rest of the devotees won't get any. If somebody's greedy, then other people, and take more than they need, then other people don't get what they need. It's a simple formula. The earth is providing so much wealth and opulence in every way, but a few people are taking so much more than they need, so others aren't getting what they need. All right. Now there's a nice verse 8 to 14. Next.
Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Yeah. In the heart of the Lord, in the heart is described. The process of meditation should begin from the lotus feet of the Lord and progress to the smiling face. The gradual process will purify the intelligence. The Vira Rupa meditation. Canto 2, 1, 22, 20, 38, 39, sorry. It's a prerequisite to meditation in the personal form for those who have not yet developed a sense of loving service into the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna.
Okay, now that covers the question someone asked about the universal form.
Yeah.
Fortunately, Lord Chaitanya is giving us a sense of loving service and, the deities, the holy name and everything right off. So we don't have to meditate on the universal form. And these verses is what I mentioned before. The rivers are the bones, the clouds are the hairs on the head, and all these different things that we see regularly are compared to the body of the Lord. In one sense, the universe is a form of the Lord. And that way we can gradually think of the Lord as a person. Then we can, but Lord Chaitanya is just giving us right away the highest thing. Okay, any other comment on that? Start with the lotus feet of the Lord. The Bhagavatam is also compared to the form of the Lord. Uh-oh, who's making that sound? The Srimad Bhagavatam is, oh, somebody is making noise.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
So the Bhagavatam, the first 2 cantos are compared to what part of the Lord's body? Come on. Starting, this is where we start. We start by meditating on what part of the Lord's body. The lotus feet, first and second canto are the lotus feet of the Lord. So we start with that. Then it goes up, and I don't know exactly, but the 10th canto is the smiling face of the Lord. So when you approach a great personality, you start with the feet. That's the way we offer artik. We start with the feet. Okay, the next one.
Verses 15 to 32. Sukadev Goswami describes how the the Rasavan Prabhu hand is up. Yes, Rasavan Prabhu. Unmute yourself. You are muted. You are still muted. Okay.
Yeah.
You want to read?
15. Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Verse 15 to 32. Sukadev Goswami describes how a successful Bhakti yogi who is able to quit his body as he likes can purify himself of material gross and subtle bodies, extinguishing all material desires. After pushing his life air through the cerebral hole and gradually ascending through the higher planets, he can at last pierce the outer coverings of the universe and enter into the kingdom of God. This process was described personally by Lord Krishna unto Brahmana. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Comment? That's pretty direct, and that's our, process that we're trying to practice ourselves. And special mercy. And who knows what Devahuti said about those who are chanting the holy name? Devahuti is the mother of Lord Kapila Dev, and she made a very famous statement that we hear very often about those who are chanting the holy name.